Hi, and welcome to Gadget News and Review. We are home to some of the coolest gadgets, and the best consumer reviews online, buyer's guides and features. If you like our review, please subscribe for more upcoming reviews videos.
Huawei MateBook 14 Review. Huawei has been killing it over the last year, with top-end Ultrabooks like the Huawei MateBook X Pro, MateBook 13 and now the Huawei MateBook 14. It doesn't look like the manufacturer is slowing down anytime soon. This thin and light beauty is packed with the latest U-series processors and enough RAM and SSD storage to keep it competitive. But, with so many great Ultrabooks out there at every price point, is the Huawei MateBook 14 worth your time and money? Well, yes, but the lack of Thunderbolt 3 and the weird in-keyboard camera might rub some people the wrong way. It's the classic question of value versus features, but no matter how you slice it, the Huawei MateBook 14 is a compelling laptop. When you first pull the Huawei MateBook 14 out of the box, the first thing you'll notice is that it looks like a MacBook Pro with thin bezels, and that is enough to catch our attention. This thin and light beauty is just 0.63 inches thick and weighs only 3.28 pounds. And, because the Huawei MateBook 14 has incredibly thin, 0.49mm bezels, it's able to pack its 14-inch QHD 2160 by 1440 display into a small chassis. In fact, it's not much bigger than the 13-inch MacBook Pro we use on a daily basis, certainly not big enough for us to notice a difference when they're not next to each other. As for ports, there are plenty available here. This laptop features two USB-A ports, a USB-C 3.1 port for charging and data, HDMI and a 3.5mm headphone jack. Thin and light Ultrabooks have a tendency to sacrifice ports, and that's not the case with the MateBook 14. However, we would have liked to see Thunderbolt 3, especially at this price point. If you're looking for a beautiful display, look no further. The Huawei MateBook 14 is simply gorgeous. The 3:2 screen makes the MateBook 14 an excellent choice for productivity. With 300 nits of brightness, it's not the brightest laptop on the market, but the 100% sRGB coverage helps make up for it. Beyond the brightness and color accuracy, though, this is a touch-enabled laptop at the high end. The touchscreen is incredibly responsive, and the hinge is sturdy enough so that it doesn't wobble every time you poke at it. Then, there's the speakers. One of our biggest pet peeves with laptops is speakers on the bottom of the chassis, and the Huawei MateBook 14 is just another in a long list of offenders. They're not the worst speakers we've ever heard, but they will get muffled if you're using the laptop anywhere but on a desk. The keyboard is extremely comfortable and responsive with incredibly deep travel for a laptop so thin. We do a lot of typing day in and day out, and believe us when we say that this is definitely one of the best laptops for writers. Between the F6 and F7 keys on the keyboard, is the webcam. You read that right, the webcam is beneath a button on the keyboard, which you can press to pop it up. The webcam itself works fine, it's a 720p shooter, but at such an awkward angle. We don't typically use our webcam very often, so the thin bezels are totally worth it. Your mileage may vary, though. Below the keyboard is the glass-coated touchpad, and it's one of the best touchpads we've used on a Windows laptop. The tracking surface isn't the widest, but it's wide enough to get the job done without too much frustration. Luckily, it's incredibly responsive and accurate, and the button click is crisp, not mushy like some other Windows laptops. Above the keyboard, on the top right-hand side of the chassis is a power button that also acts as a fingerprint reader for Windows Hello login. This fingerprint sensor is one of the most accurate and reliable we've used in a long time. It reads our fingerprints quickly and accurately every time. The Huawei MateBook 14 we tested here is packed with an Intel Core i7-8565U, 16GB of RAM, a 512GB SSD and an NVIDIA GeForce MX 250 GPU. Needless to say, for most day-to-day use, this laptop absolutely demolishes pretty much anything we can throw at it. Whether we are casually browsing the internet or working, we don't notice any kind of slowdown, even when we have more than 20 browser tabs, Tidal and Slack open. With this kind of horsepower, nothing short of robust video editing is going to slow it down. And, because the Huawei MateBook 14 is packed with an NVIDIA MX 250 graphics chip, it actually can handle some light video editing and even casual gaming, though this isn't exactly one of the best gaming laptops. Still, it's good for playing some Civilization Vi in our downtime. Things get especially interesting as we move on to the benchmarks. Because the Huawei MateBook 14 has virtually the same specs as the Huawei MateBook X Pro, this laptop has incredible performance for the money. In fact, in our testing, the MateBook 14 exceeded its more expensive companion. For instance, in Cinebench, it scored 618 points, compared to the MateBook X Pro's 495. Numbers were a bit closer in the Geekbench multi-core test, where the MateBook 14 scored 17,281 to the MateBook X Pro's 17,152. Graphics benchmarks continue the trend. In the 3D Mark Fire Strike test, the Huawei MateBook 14 scored 3,476, compared to the MateBook X Pro's 2,709. This is likely because of the MateBook X Pro's sharper display resolution demanding more graphics power all the while, but considering that the Huawei MateBook 14 is up to $560 cheaper, this is impressive performance nevertheless. Battery life in Ultrabooks keeps getting better and better, even for models featuring discrete graphics like the Huawei MateBook 14. In the PC Mark 8 battery life test, the laptop lasted 3 hours and 22 minutes, which compared to the MateBook X Pro, is about 30 minutes short. Unfortunately, the same is true in our video playback test, where we looped 1080p video with the display and volume set to 50%. In this test, the Huawei MateBook 14 lasted just 8 hours and 55 minutes, which falls short of the 10 hours and 8 minutes that the Huawei MateBook X Pro scored. These discrepancies in battery performance are likely due to the MateBook 14's slightly smaller 56.3 watt-hour capacity against the 57.3 watt-hours within the MateBook X Pro. This might sound alarming, but the Huawei MateBook 14 is more than capable of lasting throughout the workday without having to reach for a charger. The laptop will last even longer if you get creative with battery-saving options. The only software that was pre-installed on the Huawei MateBook 14 is the Huawei PC Manager, which will scan for any drivers that are missing. This software also features Huawei Share, which allows users to sync data between the laptop and a mobile device. Unfortunately, this feature isn't available for iOS, so we weren't able to test it out ourselves. It does seem like a useful piece of software, but the lack of any other bloatware is the huge selling point here. That means the Huawei MateBook 14 is as close to a pure Windows 10 laptop experience as you can get short of picking up something like the Surface Laptop 2. Windows boots up extremely quickly, as there is nothing pre-installed to slow it down. There isn't much in the way of unique features here, but that doesn't matter. The Huawei MateBook 14 is an incredible value, especially considering that the price of the operating system wasn't subsidized by third-party software. At the end of the day, the Huawei MateBook 14 is an incredible value for the money if you're in the market for a flagship laptop experience. The level of hardware you're getting here, along with the gorgeous QHD touch display and robust build quality, is absolutely worth the price of entry. This is especially true when you compare it to the more expensive Huawei MateBook X Pro. Sure, the MateBook 14 doesn't feature Thunderbolt 3 and has a lower resolution display, but when you're saving hundreds of dollars, it's a no-brainer. Huawei laptops have been getting better and better, and devices like the MateBook 14 show why they consistently rank among the best laptops and Ultrabooks on the market, something that this laptop achieves with flying colors.